Right here with you, and in the studio with me is Jeff Cohen, the media critic and lecturer, founding director of the Park Center for Independent Media at Ithaca College, where he's associate professor of journalism, the author most recently of Cable News Confidential, My Misadventures in Corporate Media, former senior producer with MSNBC's Phil Donahue program, founder of Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, FAIR, and the co-founder of RootsAction.org. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Great to be with you. I just retired this month.
Seriously?
From Ithaca College. Yeah.
Wow.
10 years of being able to celebrate independent journalism. You know, my center was about independent media, non-conglomerated media.
Right.
And I did it for 10 years, and it left me pretty healthy because, you know, the previous 15, 20 years, I was just a media critic talking about what was going wrong with corporate media and conglomerated takeover of media. And so the last 10 years to be able to talk about the journalists who do it right, the journalists who see their job as public watchdogs, the journalists who comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. It's been a pleasure. I mean, people say, God, you're younger now than because when you're at FAIR, it's not a glamorous job, but you have to monitor Rush Limbaugh day after day and watch Fox News night after night.
My God.
Yeah, that can give you indigestion and health problems.
Yes.
So it's been 10 years at Ithaca College, celebrating and teaching independent media. I do a class where we go into the history of independent dissenting media throughout U.S. history.
Right.
And so it's been exciting. And we give away the award every year, the Isie Award, named after Isie Stone, I.F. Stone, the legendary journalist from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And we've given that award out to Amy Goodman, Naomi Klein, John Carlos Frey, Lee Fong just won it this year. Darja Mail, who does climate change work, expose at Truth Out. He was someone who shared the award this year. Jeremy Scahill, Glenn Greenwald's been to campus. So it's been an exciting 10 years and much better than just being a critic of mainstream media.
That's great. I had a caller in the last hour who wanted to praise Elon Musk for starting Pravda and using it to, quote, hold journalists accountable, or words to that effect. And I was actually so offended by what Musk had said about the media and his creating this Pravda.com website and everything, that Louise and I had been planning for 2 years with the idea of getting the new low-end Tesla, you know, an affordable Tesla. Our name has been on the list for 2 years. And we always figured, you know, when your name comes up, then you have to choose, right? And we'll look at our finances and everything and decide. But over the weekend, I called Tesla and said, take my name off the list. And the question was why, and my answer was, because it looks to me like Elon Musk is going after the media, and I'm in the media, and even if I wasn't, I'd be offended by that. And my caller was like, no, wait a minute, you want people holding the media accountable. And I'm like, I'm not sure I want a billionaire holding the media accountable. And he's like, well, somebody's got to hold the media accountable. And I said, you know, I think we can all hold the media. And then it occurred to me, you started FAIR, Fairness, Accuracy, and Reporting, which is all about keeping the media accountable. So who better than you to ask, what's going on? What are your thoughts on all this?
I am with you 100%. I mean, the problem with the media is billionaires have been taking over. The problem with U.S. politics is billionaires are taking over. We need to get working class and middle class people involved in journalism and involved in politics. And you say, tag, you're it. I mean, clearly the problem with our society is the billionaires. So fair.org, if people want to see what real media criticism is, where we have a staff that scrutinizes the media, documents it, does studies, who gets to appear on TV and who doesn't, which think tanks are on the air and which aren't, what's the race and gender and corporate or class orientation of the people that get on the air as experts day after day. Serious holding the media accountable is happening already. If Elon Musk wants to get involved, donate to FAIR. But FAIR won't allow you to play any role in their media criticism. You hold the mainstream media accountable. Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! Holds the... Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian on the Young Turks hold the media accountable. No, I'm totally with you. The last thing we need is another billionaire holding the media accountable. They want to help? Donate to nonprofit news outlets. That's the way to make sure you're holding the corporate mainstream media accountable is donate to those nonprofit outlets or nonprofit organizations like FAIR that do just that.
Well, and I would argue that the other thing that's would be probably pretty useful right now is a modern-day Sherman Antitrust Act.
Of course.
Directed not just broadly. I mean, it needs to be broadly directed. Virtually every industrial sector in the United States and commercial sector in the United States has been monopsonized. You know, it's down to 3 to 5 companies that control the entire sector. But media is one of those.
Yeah. I mean, it's not rocket science. People ask me a lot when I do lectures, how do we get a more small d democratic media system? It's not rocket science. You set up a public broadcasting system where they get permanent insulated funding so the journalists aren't afraid that the right-wingers in Congress are going to shut off, and then public broadcasting can be something you can turn to dig things up instead of our public broadcasting, which is so timid and conservative. You also break up the media monopolies. You also give taxpayer money in a non-ideological way. You subsidize journalism, right-wing, left-wing. You go to Norway, besides having powerful public broadcasting that really raises the level of information among the public, they subsidize websites and newspapers, whether right, left, or center. It's irrespective of ideology. So there's lots of ways of how do you set up a media system that isn't controlled by the billionaires or advertisers or corporate owners, and a media system that can foment democracy. So we know how to do it. The problem is that these media conglomerates are so powerful as lobby in their lobby operation. I'm thinking of Comcast, I'm thinking of Disney, I'm thinking of Murdoch, I'm thinking of Time Warner. They're so powerful that they've been able to take more and more power over the media system. You've talked about this a lot since the Reagan administration, and a few companies have taken more and more opinion-shaping power over the media. It wasn't a natural process. It wasn't something that was inevitable. It was completely a corrupt process. And people are always asking me, rightfully, about Sinclair Broadcast Group and this one company that owns a couple hundred TV broadcast stations across the country. Well, thank Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich, who worked together behind closed doors, both parties being funded by media conglomerates, when they did the Telecommunications Act of 1996. Prior to that act, you could only own 12 TV stations across the country, and now Sinclair Broadcast, this right-wing pro-Trump outfit, has 200. That wasn't natural. That wasn't the result of like some pressure group or some big social movement. You know what's wrong with this country, Tom? We haven't allowed enough media power to go in the hands of fewer and fewer companies. You know, there's no one demanding it, no one calling for it publicly, and it keeps happening. Clear Channel, before the Telecommunications Act, had a few dozen, and within a year or two, they had 1,200 radio stations. Right. So it's not a it's not rocket science. How would you, as you say, invoke antitrust, create true public broadcasting? We've never had that in our country, but you can go to Europe and see what public broadcasting can really do. Mm-hmm. And then allow public money to go to nonprofit outlets. So it's easy to do. You just need to have a different political leadership. As long as the political leadership goes from the Republicans to, the Clinton Democrats, there will never be this kind of small d democratic media system. We can't even get free airtime for candidates. Yeah. I mean, the reason the politicians have to go to the rich people and the corporations is for their ad money. But in other countries, political ads are illegal. Everyone gets free airtime. Yeah, you can thank, to a certain extent, the Supreme Court for that. Yep. Jeff Cohen is with you. You can stick around for a little bit? Sure. Great. You got a movie to promote, all kinds of cool stuff. We'll be right back with Jeff Cohen.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Jeff's website, by the way, jeffcohen.org, and the movie we're going to discuss when we come back from this break is allgovernmentslie.com. And welcome back. Jeff, we talked about Sinclair. We've talked about the Isie Award and Elon Musk. And I don't want to get into the movie until we come back from the commercial break, What are some of the other issues that you're watching right now that have to do with the media? This piece that I wrote and submitted to Alternate this morning, I've got to do some little tweaks on it this afternoon, but is basically how authoritarians rise to power. What specifically do they do? And I went through this list of, they lie often and big. They consolidate their power while challenging and co-opting the institutions of accountability, which includes the media, attack the press, vilify protesters, minorities, and political enemies to the point of provoking violence against them, scapegoat minority groups to rile up mob mentality, elevate one religion that you can control and reward while trashing others, and co-op institutions of military and police power into becoming loyal sycophants, foster a sense of helplessness among the opposition with brutal crackdowns. And there's a couple things I want to add to that this afternoon. But what do you see in that list that are flags for you?
The scapegoating of minorities is something that's worked so well in this country, unfortunately.
Oh, from the beginning. Right. I started with Native Americans.
Of course. And by the way, the media was always a part of that, the mainstream media. There's an incredible book by Juan Gonzalez called Tell All the People. And it's the history of race and media in the country. So what Trump is doing with his right-wing media echo chamber is not new. There's this myth in journalism schools that when minorities were victims of lynch mobs and Chinese immigrants are being attacked in California, that the media was insensitive to or looking away from racism. No. In most cases, the mainstream media were whipping up the lynch mobs. So I think you're right to emphasize especially the scapegoating. It's something that's fertile territory. George Bush, too, didn't really do it. He say Muslims, he wasn't a Muslim basher. He wasn't
Bush
an immigrant
Jr.?
basher. Yeah, I didn't see him as his policies were awful in the Middle East, but he would always say Islam is a religion. We respect all religions. There's something that's changed here, and it's Trump going back into the darkest periods of American history, of U.S. history, which is that scapegoating, and unfortunately he's got an echo chamber in the media to help him.
Yesterday was the anniversary of Fred Trump, Donald's father, being arrested at a Klan rally in Jamaica, in New York City.
And our great, one of the great, there's always been two Americas, the America of racism and the America of justice. Right. And Woody Guthrie was a tenant of Fred Trump. And Woody Guthrie penned a great song with Fred Trump in the lyrics because he knew Trump was a racist. Now, Woody from Oklahoma, a white guy who fought racism his whole life, and he's there near the end of his life. He's living in New York City, and he sees that his landlord is a racist dog, and that's Donald Trump's dad.
Are there any recordings of that song?
I don't think it was put to music, but yeah, the lyrics are online. If people want the lyrics,
I've read them on the air.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever put to music. There was he wrote a lot of lyrics. So did Dylan, but he wrote a lot of lyrics that were never put to music. And the great singer from England, the progressive singer, Billy Bragg, has taken a lot of those lyrics and put them to music. Unfortunately, not the Fred Trump one.
Co-founder of Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting. Excuse me, co-founder, rootsaction.org. So, Jeff, let's talk about this movie. You're here for a reason. AllGovernmentsLie.com is the website. Tell us about this.
All Governments Lie, Truth, Deception, and the Spirit of I.F. Stone. It's a documentary that I co-produced, and it talks about government deceivers, but more importantly, journalists throughout modern history who've exposed government deceit and corporate deceit. And so it's a movie that stars Amy Goodman and Nermeen Sheikh from Democracy Now! We got the Young Turks in there. We got Jeremy Scahill and Glenn Greenwald from The Intercept, which is so important. We have Tom Eaglehart from Tom Dispatch. We got Michael Moore in there. We got Carl Bernstein. And I think the LA Times, their reference was a damning indictment of mainstream media, but it's really a celebration of independent media. Tom, I listen to your show day after day. I mean, there is something that's happened in the last 15, 20 years, and that's been a boom in independent media, non-conglomerated media, independent voices, voices of the working class and the middle class. And that's really sort of a new thing. I mean, we've always had government deception. We've always had right-wing disinformation and propaganda in the mainstream media. But what's really boomed, and you've been part of it in the last 15 or 20 years, is independent media. And I teach the history of independent media and journal. You know, I have taught it for 10 years at Ithaca College in the journalism department. And this really is a historic thing. Now, it'll come to an end, or it'll be really curtailed, if Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, working with Trump's Federal Communications Commission, is able to end net neutrality. Because whether you're on radio or you're a muckraking author or you make documentaries, the internet has been key to the boom in independent media. And it's not a surprise that that offends, that irritates big conglomerates. And it's not something you'll hear on MSNBC. Comcast is the owner of NBC and MSNBC. They talk about the Russian assault on our democracy every hour. They call it breaking news, and they do the same thing they did the hour before, but it's always breaking news. What I'd love to see is 10 minutes among the 24/7 about how Russia is destroying our democracy, and focus on U.S. conglomerates and U.S. corporate assaults on our democracy, because the major threat to press freedom today is not that Trump calls reporters bad names. It's that they are working hand in glove to end net neutrality. So that's sort of the gist of the movie, All Governments Lie. It's a celebration of independent media. I'll be in Portland on Sunday, June 3rd. We're going to screen the movie, the documentary, All Governments Lie, at 6:30. And then after that, I'll be doing a Q&A. It's the First Unitarian Church here in Portland.
It's a great church.
Yeah, and I don't know, the sponsors include KBOO and the First Unitarian Church, Social Justice Committee. But after we show the movie this Sunday at 6:30, we'll have a Q&A on anything about media or politics.
Mm-hmm. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've been doing a tour of your great state. Salem, Corvallis, Ashland, Eugene, Florence.
Did you get over to the coast?
Yeah,
Astoria?
Florence. Well, I got the closest was to Florence. The state is so beautiful.
It is. It really
and
is.
then, of course, you don't pump your own gas. There's no toll roads.
Right.
I've been driving a small car so I don't burn too much fossil fuel. But, I mean, to meet peace and justice activists throughout the great state of Oregon and to see this churn that's happening. They're trying to flip one of these Republican congressional districts. It's pretty exciting. And many of these people, they're listening to your show on some of their community stations.
Yeah, X-Ray FM here in Portland.
And so, I mean, it's sort of exciting to be in Oregon. There's always activism here. There's independent media here. There's independent newspapers here. In Florence and Eugene, pretty new community radio stations. So it's very exciting for me always, and I have family in Mount Hood, so it's always great to be out here.
Okay. Yeah. You know, they just discovered like 10, 15 years ago that that's still an active volcano.
Oh, you had to. Just when I'm waxing eloquent about Oregon, and you have to tell me that.
No, well, it's kind of. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, I hope it doesn't blow up.
Yeah.
But, so anyhow, we have a little less than a minute left here. What's the main message that you'd like to leave people with?
Celebrate independent media, support it, support Free Speech TV. I do the annual Isie Award, where we give away awards for outstanding achievement in independent media, and it's broadcast every year on Free Speech TV. Support Pacifica, support community radio. It's not enough to listen to Thom Hartmann or watch Thom Hartmann.
If I may add, by the way, we are on commercial radio stations, for-profit radio stations that are locally owned. In Chicago, in Minneapolis, around the country.
Support those stations, too.
When you hear an advertiser, call them up and say, thanks for advertising on KTNF or WCPT
I agree
or
with
whatever
you.
it may be.
If you hear independent media and you're getting...
It doesn't have to be not-for-profit.
Of course. Of course. If there are commercial stations carrying the Thom Hartmann Show, let them know you're listening. Spread the word about the Thom Hartmann Show on social media. There's so much that activists can do to support independent media and independent voices. It's not enough just to educate yourself. You've got to get active.
Jeff Cohen, website jeffcohen.org and allgovernmentslie.com. Thanks, Jeff.